Welcome to Playing Above the Line, where we interview entrepreneurs, business owners, and community activists to get their thoughts and perspectives on leadership. Playing Above the Line is sponsored by Adviso Group, a business consulting and accounting firm focused on preparing clients for the future through innovation and positive growth. Welcome to Playing Above the Line. I'm Alan, your host, and I'm excited about today's episode because I know that Carrie's excited because she loves her little puppy Dansby and she talks about him a lot. And we have as our guest today, Anna Grantham, and she is the founder and owner of Farm to Treat, and she makes homemade and nutritious dog treats. And so I think that's very cool. So Anna, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So I was reading the bio that Carrie gave me earlier, and I'm intrigued by how you got to where you are. Mm-hmm. I want you to tell that story, but tell me, what did you do before you founded Farm to Treat?
I had numerous part-time jobs, and it ranged anywhere from healthcare to being in the service industry. So I was a waitress, a bartender, a server, a line cook. As far as with animals, I managed a kennel and a vet clinic. I managed a dog training facility, a dog boarding facility. I was a freelance dog trainer for about 2-3 years. And then I transitioned into making my own dog's food with my personal animals while I was working at other restaurants and things like that. So.
All right. So you've always been an animal lover, it sounds like. And so you have 2 dogs, right?
I do.
Okay. So COVID hits,
yes.
right? And then obviously being in the service industry, those jobs probably were not there anymore. And so take us from that point on to where you are now as far as the progression of how Farm to Treat started and how it got to where it is now.
I did lose one of my jobs due to COVID, and the other job, the hours just shortened. And I'd been making dog treats for my own dogs for about 1.5 years, and I had been creating homemade meals for them as well. And a couple of my friends reached out, and they wanted me to offer the treats to them. That was maybe 2 weeks before COVID hit, and then COVID hit, and they're like, oh, we're actually going to start paying you for these things, because I was just giving them away for free. Yeah. And they told their friends, and then their friends told their friends. I think I probably had 12 orders the first month, and I thought I was just, the coolest thing with 12 orders for this one specific treat. It wasn't even a variety. And the owner of the health food store here in Fairhope was like, well, why don't you put some on the shelf here? And I thought, oh my God, oh no, this is just like a fun thing. I don't know if I could do that, but I did. And I made a post the other day because I did not know anything about owning or running a business. And I couldn't afford to pay someone to make labels for me, so I hand drew like 10 labels, and I just bought the bags from Hobby Lobby. I probably spent like $15 on the whole setup, and I just thought it was the coolest thing to have my treats on a shelf. 3 or 4 hours later, she was like, yeah, you're sold out. You're going to need to bring more. Ever since then, it's just been insane. Just so much happening. And that was the beginning of May. On May 30th, which is my 1-year anniversary, I started the Facebook page. And it sounds so strange to be like, I had 100 followers on my page, to have 100 people that were interested in what I was doing.
Yeah.
And then I had a dog trainer reach out, and she was like, can you make dog training treats? I said, sure I can. So I've started selling treats to her. She's still one of my best customers. And then I was like, well, if these people like it, why don't I go to other retail locations? And then by July, maybe August, I had 7 retail locations. I was doing markets, just little like the Thursday market behind the library in Fairhope. And then I got invited to the Jubilee Festival. And it was bigger than anything I'd ever done. And I was not prepared, but I went to it. I think I probably saw 1,000 people or something like that. And I was just passing out business cards that I'd made myself and ordered off Vistaprint. That's really what initiated it, because it was people from all over the country almost coming over to shop the local art stuff, and they saw the dog treats. And
I'm amazed because, you literally started this from nothing, right? Just the fact that you went to Hobby Lobby and bought the bags and drew the labels by hand, that's amazing. So obviously you love your dogs and you wanted them to have nutritious treats, but is that were you just not happy with what you could find in the stores? Is that kind of the genesis of the whole concept?
So I knew working at vet clinics and just working with a large amount of dogs, skin issues and gut issues, digestive issues are the most common problem, I would say. I was like, why? What is happening that causes that? And then that forced me to look into what are they eating, because it starts from the inside and works its way out. So I just became so obsessed with looking at labels. Like, I wouldn't go to PetSmart to buy anything. I would go and just research labels for like 15, 20 minutes and take notes. And then I would go home and figure out what those ingredients meant and where they came from and where it was sourced. But a lot of them didn't make sense to me. And so that was my goal, was to make treats that made sense to the owner. The nutrition aspect was really important to me. But I also wanted to make something that let people know where the ingredients were coming from. So the nutrition is great, but the sourcing is my other biggest factor. And I want it to be sourced from your neighbor. I want it to be sourced from farmers that you can go out and look and see yourself where the cows are coming from, where the rabbits and ducks or whatever protein I'm using, or even down to the produce. Where is that coming from? It's coming from somebody you go to church with. It's coming from your family. Family-owned farmers is the biggest proponent of Farm to Treat because I wanted to support them. So sourcing and nutrition, in my opinion, go hand in hand for Farm to Treat.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I guess I'm most interested in how do you scale something like that? Because if you go from making treats for your 2 puppies and then you're giving some to friends and whatnot, but then all of a sudden you have your treats in 5, 6, 7 retail locations. You're going to these huge festivals and you're having more orders than you can fill. I mean, what does that look like? So how did you go about trying to, I don't know if you develop processes or how did you scale that to be able to try to meet the demand?
Right. Initially, I was working out of my house, and then I realized that I needed to rent from a commercial kitchen. So I've been doing that for a while now. Basically, I try and source 2 to 3 days a week. I go to the farms, or they sometimes meet me with the product, and then within 48 hours, the treat should be made. So I don't hold anything. It's turned from the farmer to the treat within 48 hours. I've even had a farmer bring me turkey before, and he literally killed it that day. And then within 24 hours, I had turned it into jerky. And so it is literally from the farmer to the treat. And in the future, I'll have a larger space and I'll have a kitchen built into my shop and I'll have multiple deep freezers full of products. So I don't have to spend half the week sourcing and the other half baking or dehydrating, whatever it is. So that's the goal, is to be able to buy in bulk and then continue using it. Right now, I buy as much as I need for that week and as many orders as I need for that week. And that kind of makes it easier on me, but also the farmers, because they're as hands-on as possible, their inventory, if that's what you want to call it, fluctuates with the weather. I'm easy to work with them, and I just call them up. I'm like, hey, what do you have this week? There are certain products that I always have, but most of them, when I call the farmer up and I'm not demanding certain products, I'm just like, hey, what do you need to get rid of right now? What do you have that hasn't sold yet? I buy that, and so it helps them out, because that's another part of reducing waste is by sourcing from the farmer and things that he might just toss away because humans don't want to purchase it.
Right. I'm
taking that in and turning it into dog treats.
That is really a great partnership and a lot of needs being met from the business model you set up, which I think is very cool. So what does a typical day look like for you? You source some days, you cook or prepare some days, but is there a typical day in your life in trying to run this business?
My shop has been open for a month now, and every day since then has been different because I'm definitely learning every single minute of every day. I'm still not perfect at managing my schedule. I do have a 10-year-old daughter, so it's important to get her ready, take her to school, and then I usually head to the shop and I look at orders online first. And I look at the inventory that I have already. And if I don't have that product in stock, I call up the farmers and I see what they have available. Around 10 to 12, I try to get on emails and I try to get on social media at some point during that day. Social media has been the most time-consuming part of all of this because we don't shop in person as much as we do shop first online. Right. Even if you plan to shop in person, you're going to look online first. So honestly, I probably spend 2 to 3 hours in the span of a day on Facebook and Instagram and emails and, on the website, things like that. I usually run deliveries between 3 and 5. So I have free delivery in Fairhope. And people that maybe can't get out, don't want to get out, maybe they're social distancing, I will place their order and then deliver it to them from 3 to 5 p.m. On days that I'm open, I usually am open from 12 to 6. During the morning, I'm taking live videos. Everybody loves live videos on Facebook, letting them know what I have in advance. And then that's the time that I reply to emails and do all the other technical stuff while I'm waiting on customers. So
you've got your commercial kitchen, but you also have a shop where people can walk in and buy retail. All right, good. And where's that located?
It's on 68 Bancroft Street in Fairhope.
Okay.
Pascal from the Fairhope Soap Company has been one of my best customers. And before I really put my feelers out for a shop, he was always asking, when's your shop coming? When is it going to be here? When can I come to a brick and mortar? And I would always laugh and say, I'm definitely not ready for that. And then he was one of the first people I messaged when I got the shop that I'm in now. And then my first day he came in and he was like, "This is great. When's the next one coming? Like, when are you planning on being bigger? When are you going to be on Fairhope Avenue? When are you going to be on Section Street?" And it was my first day, and I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "You need to be where people are coming to shop, and you're going to get there." And he told me, his background story, where he started in a little shop almost no bigger than what I had. And now he's on one of the main streets in Fairhope in a beautiful, gigantic shop and sells beautiful soaps. So he's been inching me along, I guess.
It's good to have the brake and the gas too, right? It's good to have people that will maybe make you, stop and think twice maybe about a decision, but it's also good to have those people that push you and maybe even push you outside of your comfort zone, or maybe push you even further than you want to go at the time.
Oh, for sure.
It sounds like he played a big part in making you want to take that next step.
Definitely.
Yeah. So speaking of people you trust, who do you use as your sounding board? We talk a lot about mentors on the podcast, and I typically ask people to give me an influence or a mentor maybe that they've had. But as an entrepreneur, who do you go to if you need to really have someone give you the honest answer that you need?
Baldwin County is full of women entrepreneurs.
Right.
Lori at Fairhope Juice Company, she has been a wonderful person to have. Talia with No Soap Company, Loretta with Watercolor Willa, Amanda with her kombucha business. I have a little community of entrepreneurial women, and it literally, if I'm just like, "Hey, what should I do about this social media post?" or "What should I do about this financial problem?" They've already done it because they've all been, not in my industry, but in the entrepreneur industry for way longer than I have. So they've found their way across these obstacles and can help me in a way that keeps me from making mistakes, or they can give an unbiased opinion about what I'm doing. All of them are my customers, so they can also be like, "Yeah, I probably wouldn't buy that," or "Yes, that's a great idea. Please do this." Yeah. So reaching out to other women who have the same goals as me. I can't remember the quote exactly, but it's like, sit at the table with people who do it better than you. And if you do that, then, you can alleviate a lot of mistakes along the way.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm a big believer that you learn a lot from your failures, right? Fail forward. Don't make the same mistake twice, or try not to. And then also surround yourself with people who are smarter than you.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay not to be the smartest person in the room or at the table or whatever. You can learn a lot from those folks. Do you consider yourself an entrepreneur? Because my definition, you are. And so if you do, have you always had that entrepreneurial bent about you think? Or is this something is it relatively new just from the time that you saw that need and decided to meet it?
I think so. I think this has definitely been the most lucrative and the best outcome of the entrepreneurial ventures that I've gone on. I can probably think for the past 10 years I've come up with side hustles, if that's what you want to call it. I had a vintage online shop for 3 years. I did dog baths for a few years. I did the dog training for a few years. So little things to help make ends meet, basically. And that's how this started, which is funny because now it's my only income. So, this has definitely been the biggest one. But I think I've always kind of been resourceful and tried to figure out what do I have to offer that people want, and then trying to fit that into my schedule.
You touch on that, and I'm a huge believer that the most successful entrepreneurs have vision, and I think you have absolutely tapped into a market of, and I'm saying this really tongue-in-cheek, but crazy people, right? Because people love, and I'm sitting right beside one right here, and producer Carrie, she loves that dog like it was her own child, and they're willing to spend whatever, to make sure that they have all the things that they need, whether it's toys or houses or beds or food or whatever. And so you have definitely tapped into a market that people are willing to spend their disposable income on.
I think so.
On the things you offer.
So many people, especially in my generation, are having dogs instead of kids. They're wanting to. And then one of my biggest goals is you can go to a big box pet store and ask the person let's just say you've got a brand new puppy and you're like, I don't know what to do. What do I need for this puppy? And they'll have you out the door with $600-700 worth of stuff, and that includes the food and the treats and all the things. And because you don't necessarily know any better, you take that as exactly what you need. So I love working with people who have never had dogs before and explaining to them, even if you're not purchasing from me, go into the store and make sure you're looking for these specific things. Make sure you run away from these specific things because it's either a waste of money or you're just setting the dog up for negative behavior, whatever it may be. So educating pet owners on their dog's nutrition, whether it's the treats or their full meals, is something that I'm really excited about being able to venture into now that Farm to Treat is a full-time.
Yeah. Is what you offer right now supplements, I guess, treat type things, or do you also offer what would replace dog food, like the canned food or the dry food that you would buy big bags in the store. I mean, is that something that you also offer? What products do you offer at the present time?
Farm to Treat is a holistic dog treat company, so I specialize in long-lasting treats, snacks, and training treats.
Okay.
So it would be supplemental. It's not meant to be the main portion of your dog's meals.
Right.
Back in August of last year, I did start the canine nutrition program, and now that I'm a certified canine raw feeding nutritionist and herbalist, I am transitioning now into the full canine nutrition course. Okay. And with that, I really wanted to have something that was in unison with Farm to Treat, but because Farm to Treat itself is only meant for those occasional snacks and things, I did start the Dogma Bistro, and so that is going to be balanced, nutritional, holistic recipes for your dog, and that can be adding whole foods to your dog's kibble. It can be just meal toppers. It can be the full meals, like a full course meals is what I call it. Right. It's not Farm to Treat, but it's like the sister to Farm to Treat.
Okay. So the Dogma Bistro, then, is it open now? Is it active, or is that something that's coming?
So I'm taking consultations starting next week. It's a complimentary consultation up to 45 minutes, depending on how much you want to tell me about your dog. And we go through your ideal budget, the budget you're spending now, how hands-on you want to be, because some people want the food made and delivered to them, and some people really love being in the kitchen and making it themselves. And so my goal is to offer 100% customized meal source for your dogs, down to the actual sourcing of the product. So teaching you where to source the best quality of meats and produce, whatever is going to go into your dog's food. I also offer kibble services, so going in and teaching you like what kibble you should be wary of and what kibble is probably the best for your dog, because not one kibble fits every single dog's needs.
Right. All right, great. And so same contact information,
Yes.
and we'll link your social media and that kind of thing in the show notes, so people will be able to go there and find you. But okay, yeah, so folks want to have that consultation, they can go and check that out. So let me ask you this. One of the great things about being an entrepreneur in your situation is that you're the boss and the buck kind of stops with you. One of the bad things about being an entrepreneur is you're the boss and the buck stops with you, right? So I mean, you're kind of like, you're everything. So tell me about a tough, or maybe the toughest decision you've had to make so far in your venture, and what that entailed, and how you worked through whatever that issue was.
Oh, there's a list of hiccups that I've come across. But thankfully, honestly, this has been like the smoothest sailing project I've ever had, and I'm so thankful for that. But recently, definitely making the decision to drop my 3 part-time jobs and take on Farm to Treat full-time. Oh gosh, that was very, very difficult, because I have a daughter that depends on me, and I'm a single mom, so I don't have a backup plan. And I basically did that by realizing that I was running Farm to Treat full-time, but I was also dedicating a total of 45 hours a week with those 3 jobs to someone else's business. And where I loved all 3 of those businesses, it wasn't mine. And so I finally just came to the conclusion that I could spend half that amount of time making what I was super passionate about. So that was definitely the hardest decision that I made. But I was really happy with it. And being able to utilize whatever creative idea that I have, I can execute it in a time frame that works for me. It's just been really, really rewarding.
Talking about guts, I mean, it would take, I would think, an inordinate amount of intestinal fortitude with the child, to say, all right, I'm leaving my steady paychecks, I'm doing this full time. So definite risk, but the rewards obviously have been great. So talk about the most rewarding thing about what you're doing.
I had so many goals, and the goals go by hour to hour and week to week. So I can say by the end of this week, I want to achieve this. And then just taking the time to say, okay, well, how am I going to? That's been the best thing, because it's not like, oh, I may get to it in a year, or I may get to it in 6 months. Instead, it's like, oh, I'm going to get to this tomorrow. I'm going to get to it next week, because I have the time to do that. Being able to be at more markets across Baldwin County has really been helpful. I was only able to make it to maybe 1 or 2 a month before that. And now I have 2 employees, and I can have them at the market. So Farm to Treat is being represented all over Baldwin County while I'm handling business at the storefront. Or getting to be at home. That's also really nice, which I say that I probably still spend less time at home than when I was working 4 jobs. But Erin can come with me to the shop after school, and she can go with me to markets, and she can go with me when I'm sourcing stuff. And of course, she's as hands-on almost as I am. So it's been really, really nice.
We've used this term before, but you've found a way to monetize your passion.
Right.
And so it's one thing to have passion, and it's one thing to love something or love doing something. But if you really want to take that next step like you did, I mean, you've got to be able to monetize it, and you definitely have for sure. What would you tell somebody, and not necessarily, that would be wanting to go into the dog treat business, but I mean, what advice would you have for people who are like you, who have a passion for something and they're just looking to take that first step maybe in turning it into some sort of a sustainable type business?
I would say start saving your money now so that you have a financial security blanket, because, I would never put it out there that it may flop, but it may flop. With COVID, I saw many people with their passion projects turn business get completely shut down. So we know that any time the worst can happen. So start saving your money now and get a notebook and literally write down everything that pops into your head. I think right now I have 4 notebooks, and each one is a different idea. I carry around a notebook with you all the time. And when you see something that inspires you, jot it down and make perfect notes. And then that also helps for when you've actually gotten your passion project rolling. You can look back and see. That's been one of my favorite things, is looking back from a year and a half ago where I was just doodling or making notes and seeing it actually happen now. So having a notebook, making lots of notes, and then don't tell anybody what you're going to do. Do not tell a single soul. Don't tell your mama. Don't tell your children. Don't tell your best friend. Keep your ideas to yourself, because even your most beloved family members will be cautiously optimistic, but the cautious part will make you not want to do anything. So keep your ideas to yourself until you need help executing the ideas, and then start reaching out to people that you trust.
That's great advice. I like that. I like that a lot. Let's talk about goals. I mean, we've heard about where you came from, what the genesis was of your starting Farm to Treat. We kind of know where you are now. So talk to me about, a year, 2, 3 down the road, depending on how far out you want to go. What's your ultimate goal? I mean, where do you want to ultimately see your baby that you started from nothing? I mean, where do you want it to end up?
Right now, short-term goal is, after my 6-month lease is up at my beginner shop, I would love to have a location where I have a full service kitchen in the back. And I would love to have people who locally sourced vendors who make dog products, so treats and collars and accessories. I have that now in a small quantity, but I would love to have a spot for them to sell what they have, and then have the other half of that be Farm to Treat. Long-term goals, I would love to have Farm to Treat in New Orleans and in Pensacola. Both of those 2 places are super dog friendly, and I have been venturing into Pensacola, kind of putting my feelers out there. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I have been integrating myself into Pensacola so that if the time comes where I can have a shop there, people already know and trust what I have to offer.
That's great. So when you're not baking healthy dog treats or making healthy dog treats, what do you do to decompress for fun? What are some hobbies?
I love going to Blakely, and I love going to 5 Rivers. We'll spend all afternoon out there with my dogs and Erin. Having one-on-one time with them is excellent. We love movies at our house. So if it's specifically on like the weekends, I haven't had a weekend to myself in a long time. Yeah. But definitely movies. Honestly, this is going to sound really neurotic, but like organizing my planner. Oh my God, I get such a kick out of that. If I just have 30 minutes, which is what I was doing before here, I get so busy that I don't have time to like log into my planner or do whatever it is. But if I have time to just dedicate to that and know that I've got my next week scheduled and it's not going to be frantic, I love that. That's
and that's funny to me because I'm not that way, but I think it's important for you out there, the collective you out there, to find something that is your decompression, right? That you can do to kind of just get away. And if it's organizing your planner, if it's taking a walk, or if it's cooking, if it's digging in the garden, whatever it is, I mean, it's important to have those escapes because especially in an entrepreneurial space, everything you're always on, you feel like, you're always having to make decisions and whatnot. So taking that time to just kind of do something for yourself, even if it's to organize your planner, I think is a great thing. All right, we got to wrap up. I'll let you go. One more question. I love this question. So if you're going to your local karaoke bar and you're going to pick your go-to karaoke song that you're going to sing by yourself, and then I want one that you're going to sing as a duet, What are your 2 karaoke songs that you're singing?
Anything by the Dixie Chicks. I know they just go by the Chicks now,
Chicks,
which is
right,
kind of weird,
right,
but anything by them.
Okay.
And Alanis Morissette, anything by her.
I like it. Those are...
I sound horrible doing both, but I love both.
No.
I know the lyrics to all those songs.
That's all that matters. That's all that matters. Well, Anna, thank you very much. This has been very enlightening, your passion. I love it, and it's really come through this interview, so I appreciate you taking the time. And if folks, again, like I said, if they want to check out what you guys are doing at Farm to Treat and your other endeavor that you just launched, they can go to the show notes and check you guys out on social media. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes and Spotify. It definitely helps us in the ratings, and it also makes it easier for other folks to find the podcast. And as always, a big thank you to producer and editor Carrie Wolf. Playing Above the Line is sponsored by Aviso Group. If you want to know more about who we are and what we do, you can visit our website at avisogroup.com. That's AVIZO group.com. You can also check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thanks for listening.